So, Abhay, who is the real Abhay Deol? Is he the guy who played Dev D? Is he the guy who was called by that silly name Amit Sharma? Or is he the guy who danced to Salori? You have to tell us tonight.
He's the guy sitting right in front of you right now. And I'm none of those people in real life.
You have had a very, very distinguished career. I must say. Born in a film family, and then trying to do things that have never been done in Bollywood or in Indian cinema, pushing the boundaries. The range of work that you have done, from art house cinema to absolutely mainstream cinema, starring in films like Zindagi Na Mile Dobara. How do you make the choice for a script, and what is it that appeals to you when you decide that this is the role that I'm going to do?
Relatability is a big thing for me. I need to relate to a character when I'm reading a script. I like also stories that are also based in reality. So larger than life doesn't interest me much. So even my mainstream Bollywood film that I've done, like you said, Zindagi Na Mile Dobara, even Zindagi is not a typical Bollywood film. It's quite real. It's not larger than life per se. The only thing larger than life is the locations, so to speak. So yeah, that attracts me most, when I can relate to a character or something.
Abhay, when you kind of made your decision that you wanted to be an actor, what kind of pressures did you feel with Mr. Dharmendra being your uncle, and Sunny being your cousin? Did you have that whole family thing that you have to do a certain kind of cinema, or you just had a free will of doing what you wanted to do?
Not from my family, funnily enough. So my first film that I did was a romantic comedy, and I'm kind of visiting the genre now after a long time. And the industry felt, because my family has this image of being very big commercially, and they do all these action films, which is kind of cool. But in the industry, when they found out I was doing a rom-com, wrote me off. They were like, no, you have to conform to the image that your family has. And if you don't, then that's the brand that you have to work in. If you don't work that brand, then you won't go very far.
And now that you have sort of turned a producer in this film, One by Two, what is the main reason pushing you in this direction of acting in a film which is produced by you?
I did a lot of offbeat stuff, and even though now they say that they're experimenting, the windows open up a little bit for outsiders to enter the industry. But even back in 2005, 6 and 7, when I started out, to do the non-Bollywood film was difficult. But even when he made it, to then market and distribute that non-Bollywood film was even more difficult. So, and I was working with all these guys who were debuting or very early on in their careers, so like Dibakar, Banerjee, Anurag Kashyap, Navdeep Singh, Imtiaz Ali, all these guys started out around then. So I was like, okay, it would just be nice to give them a service, because they worked really hard to get those films made. And then you work that hard and then you don't get a proper distribution of, platform, and then it doesn't work. And then people say, look, this kind of cinema doesn't work. At which point I was like, no, it's not just about making good films, it's about backing it up when you're coming up for release. And so then I thought, maybe production is the way to go, because I kept pointing fingers at the producer, and I didn't want to keep pointing fingers at anyone. I thought, let me point the finger at myself. And so production was the next step.
Funnily enough, the music didn't get released on time. Such a fantastic soundtrack. So what did you do? People here may not know. How did you highlight this fact that the music was not getting released on time?
So I don't know if most of you know this, but the musicians and the music companies have an issue over rights, sharing royalty rights. And it's been going on for some time now. I was sitting back and letting the studio deal with it. Shankar Hassan lawyered on my music, so they weren't signing on this one clause that the company wanted. And I was sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then finally when it came to the middle of Jan, I said, okay, enough is enough. I'm 2 weeks away from release, and you are still haggling over this issue. I'm going to do something about it. So I spoke about it to a radio station. And I kind of, maybe I must have gone a little over the top. I don't think I was. But I called a spade, something that people don't usually do in Bollywood. The music company got pissed off and they were like, this is not going live anywhere, right?
No. Okay, it's a diplomatic compound. Everything's spoken here.
Oh yes, it stays here. It was funny because I went to the radio station to give interviews and the girl from the music company was there and I didn't know it was protocol for the music company to have their person. I thought they were keeping an eye on me, which pissed me off. So I just gave it, in my interview I didn't mince my words, I said what I had to say. Obviously the music company then got pissed off and called the studio and said, we're not going to do any publicity for you. He's insulted us. So I said, fine, you want any publicity for me? I'll get the publicity for myself. I had to go for an award function in the evening. So on the red carpet I sported like this black eye. My makeup artist gave me a nice little shiner. And the press looked at me and said, oh my God, what happened? Who hit you? And I said, the music company hit me. What do you mean? I was like, well, my music's not released and so my marketing's taken a hit. How can you sell a Bollywood film without selling his music first? And that just went, like the musicians backed me up in such a big way because they were like, okay, someone's speaking about it. And then finally we got the music rights back. It took some time and it was 5 days before the release of the film that I finally got to release my music. But it wasn't playing on radio, nothing. We had some television play.
And only an actor-producer could have done that, with an iPad. And then Facebook happened, and that was the first time a Hindi film or an Indian film has ever approached the social media on such a grand scale. Why did you do that?
Because I found out that they weren't going to release my film abroad at all. So I was like, okay, so then let's find a different platform, because piracy anyways is an issue in our industry. Even if you do have theatrical, you still have, piracy. Over here, at least anybody who would Google 1x2, it'll show up that you can see 1x2 on the Facebook page of the said film. Outside of India and Nepal, that is. Not within India, because it's playing in the theaters. And it's just a new medium. I mean, technology is changing the workspace around the world. And so it's time to sort of allow, big films always get released abroad, small films never do. So how can we then give them a platform for people to watch? And a lot of people want to watch a film legally on good prints. They'd happily pay, it's like what, $5 in America, £4 in the UK, and in Europe I would imagine it's the equivalent of €4, I suppose. And they can watch the film.
Good. I'll ask a couple more questions, then we'll throw it to the audience to ask more questions. Specifically 1x2. Now, lots of funny scenes, lots of romantic interest, but a crazy look at contemporary Indian maximum city. It's never been done before. What were the key things that you looked at when you saw the script coming to you that you wanted to sort of highlight?
Well, exactly what you said. I wanted to sort of show contemporary India the way it is, show urban citizens living the life they live, and I felt that whether you live in Bombay or Berlin or Amsterdam, wherever it is, a city life is a city life, and we thought that it would appeal to the Indian audiences, but they completely trashed it in India. Like, people hated this movie. One of the critics called it the worst film of the year, and it was Jan 31st. So, he's already decided it's the worst film ever.
Audiences here don't seem to agree with that critic.
Were you okay with it? It wasn't that bad, right?
Not at all.
I can imagine it's so-so. Don't get me wrong, I can imagine so-so. I mean, I felt like, but I didn't think it'd be the worst film that anybody ever saw. That caught me by surprise.
This was worse than this.
The experiment was to sort of not just show contemporary India, but we wanted to do the Bollywood thing. We want to appeal to the masses, but at the same time, we want to not necessarily go larger than life. So let's marry reality with Bollywood. And obviously in Bollywood that doesn't fly. We weren't necessarily making this for an art house audience or I mean, I wish I knew now, then what I know now. I would have made this completely offbeat. I would have even tried to appeal to the Bollywood.
So what would you have done alternatively?
I mean, I think the story is there, and then it's all in the execution. I would have told the director, forget the music. I mean, yeah, for sure we have tracks, but we wouldn't necessarily go so deep into the music, and we would make it more art house. And that's the direction. That's the director's really medium.
But the split screen and all that would have
Oh, that
stayed.
would have stayed. I mean, and so probably wouldn't have been as fluffier and as lighter as it is if I had gone that extreme. But the lesson learnt is never try and marry two things. Either go Bollywood or go art house. Don't try and do both. But you guys seem to like it, so maybe it worked.
And who's this girl, Preeti Desai?
Yeah, she's the actress in it.
Okay, on that note, we'll ask some people in the audience to ask a few questions.